Every morning, she feeds her hatred for me, slowly. She was at the sink, her back to me, fiddling with something I couldn't see from the distance. Even though I was close enough, I was sitting and couldn't stand up at the moment. Beside her, on the left side, were they. I could swear I was hearing the noise they always make. I don't know if it's just in my head, but I knew they were moving around. I made a polite noise with my throat, putting my hand over my mouth to get her attention. It was kind of a hello. So she glanced over her shoulder in my direction, not even looking at my face, just noticing the sound I made. My wife still had the same hatred because of my betrayal. She turned towards me and walked to the table, placing some chocolate coconut cookies on a small white plate, arranging them carefully. The cup of coffee was hot, with steam rising in a wave-like motion to both sides, disappearing just above my head. She sat directly across from me, a little distance away, and took one of those cookies, breaking it in half with a quick bite. Looking towards the window, the sun was gradually entering as it was the beginning of the morning. I never knew what to say in those damn seconds we were facing each other. I imagine apologies won't help after everything I did. On these mornings, my wife just seems to pretend I'm not there. From the beginning of all this, she never once looked at the level of my neck or spoke directly to me, but I felt the explosion of hatred in her head like a volcano erupting. The smell of coffee, the strong aroma of caffeine, without much sugar, made me irritated enough to throw the cup near her feet, making it explode into several pieces, and that hot liquid spreading and slowly sliding, the steam getting smaller with each second. She sighed a bit when she noticed what I had done and continued to ignore me. This made me quite irritated. I opened my lips to apologize. I don't know how many times I've done it, but it seems there's no sound in my mouth. I felt a pain pressing my feet, especially the left one, preventing me from taking a manly action and standing up. She grabbed a cloth, which was on the kitchen door, and wiped the floor, cutting her middle finger on one of the glass pieces. To stop the small bleeding, she put it in her mouth, sucking the blood, and disregarded her observing husband, throwing her hair back that covered her face. At that moment, the only thing paying attention, actually, the only things were flies flying around me, drinking a bit of the liquid that was left in the spot where the coffee cup died, and some bolder ones feeding on the cookies I didn't eat, on that same alabaster plate with blue details on the table. She had left our mornings with a smell of rot. It's incredible how I try to appear calm, but I'm screaming desperately like a victim of a killer or a mother watching her dead child in an accident. I know all the woman I married. I know when she's angry, you wouldn't want to be close enough at those moments of fury. Before all this, our mornings were filled with constant fights, especially in the morning, and when I arrived late at night, after finding one more and another, several other girls from the office. She somehow knew everything, discovered the betrayals. She pathetically asked and begged for my love. I was no longer giving her pleasure, much less being affectionate as I was in the past. I whispered softly that I still loved her. She stood up quickly at the moment she was spinning that cloth in circles where the coffee had spilled. She used her hands to throw the plate that had the cookies beside us. Aiming at my eyes, after a long time, I felt so much hatred that it seemed like I would be slapped in the face with a slap of revolt. Nothing happened. She regained her posture and left. She sat after going to the terrace and cleaned that dirty cloth. Calmly, she put 2 sugar cubes into the coffee that was still steaming to finish her meal. The last cookie was put in her mouth, and she kept stirring the cup with a spoon, moving it from side to side. She crossed her feet and kept twisting the front part of her hair with a finger cut by the glass. In those seconds, everything seemed to become normal, because she became more and more serene and calm. Our situation appeared to be an ordinary morning, however, it wasn't exactly what was happening. The flies kept observing us and making an annoying noise, especially in my ears, and I was writhing in agony inside. The last drop of caffeine disappeared into her mouth, and she went to the sink to wash the dishes. I observed everything and, honestly, wished to say something, to beg for forgiveness. It was useless because the words simply disintegrated in my brain as if, despite everything that was happening, I was to blame. I imagined a way to make her leave me alone in this marriage, this loving union that still tries to bind and blame me every morning. Words, letters, etc. quickly escaped my reach, leaving me guilty and vulnerable to all of this. She finally came back to the table with the box. I swore, like at the beginning of this morning, I was hearing them moving in all directions. Their small, nauseating, and hungry bodies wanting to consume me. The happy flies or their mothers enjoying everything. At that moment, I didn't even know if they were new or the fruit that came out of my putrefied left leg, victim of gangrene. She grabbed my other foot and wrapped a wire around it, giving it 5 tight turns. I could feel the flesh of my skin being cut, and she soon applied syringes, one after the other, so the blood would be interrupted and the rotting would start on the other side. I felt my leg tingling, and it seemed to be swelling sooner than the other. At the very least, I should be desperate and crying seeing those things consuming me little by little. Her behavior was truly terrifying because of the naturalness and coldness with which she did everything. I apologized and said I was still in love. But my words were so despicable that I watched her lips crack to the side. Feeling like I was lying again, she spat so low that it couldn't be heard very clearly those sentences. You consumed all the love I gave you and the things I did for our marriage. Now it's my turn to consume you slowly. Returning to her posture, she threw those larvae on my foot, which was starting to turn purple. She sat once more next to me and began to turn the pages of the newspaper, while the flies were approaching to lay more eggs, and the fruits of others savoring my body slowly.